How many of you have done with one of our teachers the 333, the B flat Mozart Sonata? Because we use it a lot. We use it a lot to show, it has all those scales. We go from showing 5 fingers, how do you manage scales? And from there we move on to other things, because scales are still at the basis of a technique. And if there isn't a feeling of comfort going from finger to finger, it's hard to do other things. So that's the basis, and this is a question that comes up also again and again, and how do we cross? How do we cross to the thumb and from the thumb? And I'm working now with somebody from a major conservatory. He's doing his graduate degree, and he can't play this. He can't get over to the thumb. He just can't get over to the thumb. I mean, very accomplished, very, very good pianist can't do it. So, we have to teach the kind of skills, and we all do it, unless someone has it already, but we never find it to be coming from the very isolated technique and not being hooked up to the forearm. We find that we have to show it. So many of you, I'm not going to concentrate on the primary things first, the rotation, the working hand and arm. What I would like to go to, because many of you have learned it, and many of you know it already, all the different things to do. What I find, and I meant it when I said in self-preservation, is that when I work with people, and they know all of those things already, the in and out is never quite right. And if the in and out is not, they could be even, it's the correct time to do out, it's the correct time to go in, they're doing all of that. The measurements are not right. So it affects the final result, which is how to play it fluently, fast, and have control over color and control over, what you're doing. That's what I find, I just, with no exception, the problem. So I thought I'll pull out a few of those places. I hope that you have the music, and if not, maybe you can share it with somebody else. So for example, and this is assuming everything else is already okay. In the right hand, I use 5 fingers and then I go from 1 to 2. If you use something else, it's something else. But this is the moment, this is the first measure. The moment people have to move out, and they do, they never move out the right amount. They either don't move enough, they move too much, and this is where the teaching gets stuck. And I have to work with them until that element works correctly, because otherwise things really have to fall into place just right. This is the, as you peel the layers of what was very uncomfortable, what was sometimes painful, people feel insecure, it's not even, you peel all of that and things are working very well. That is the kind of thing that will still stop the person from fulfilling on how it can be and how you can sit and play and not worry about it, because that's the whole purpose, that the hands do it. And I was thinking, because I work with Sophie, who's a violinist, people say, well, how do you know where to go exactly? And I was thinking, think about the violin or cello or viola, how do they know to go to that particular place to get that pitch? I mean, you have a string, and they know where to get the F, they know where to get it. To me, that's a miracle. How do you find it?
We don't know.
You don't know. But you go, but you somehow, one of the things that you learn is to go to the right place so that you get the right pitch, right? And you somehow learn to do it. You practice, you're being shown, hopefully the teacher doesn't immediately isolates the fingers, but you learn that in this place you're going to get that pitch. And in a sense, that's what happens here, but it's like finding the correct physical pitch. Because I cannot answer it exactly, none of our teachers, all the good teachers that we have, can say, right? I go exactly here, we can show it, but how do you develop that sense? How do you develop that sense? And it's the same thing, that that you've shown enough things and really work them in. I don't have another answer. And I will try to explain why. Where do you go and why do you go there? But then you have to go and practice it and find that particular place that feels exactly right. When you get used to that, if I show something that is too big or it's too small, not going to the right place, my body does something. I sometimes get something in my leg, something feels terrible. You know, and it's not a terrible thing, it's a little thing, but it's like I'm not in the right place. It's not the right pitch, that kind of a pitch. So it's something that you have to understand why you're doing, then you have to do it. It has to be mixed with all the right elements, and then it's just, that's where it goes. I mean, if I try something, I first try it and see where my hand goes. A lot of the time it will go to the right place, but sometimes I say, you know, where exactly should I be? I ask myself, students ask all the time, so when you go here, there's one note that is going to determine, I'm moving out to all those fingers, and then I'm going to go a little bit forward. There is one note in particular that determines how much I move out.
D. D.
What?
5.
No, the 5 can go here, it can go here.
The E flat.
That's right. That's exactly right. Because when I'm coming out, turns a little bit back, and I want to be in a place that puts me at the edge, close to the edge of the E flat. But you see that the answer was not forthcoming, or you were worried to say the wrong thing? Robert, I appreciate that you say it's okay to say the wrong thing, because other people are thinking it the same way, you know. Now, why is it so important? Because you don't want to move more than you need to. More movement, even of the right kind, interferes with speed, with fluency, with smoothness. Now, what would make me, if it was not an E flat, it was an E, natural, I would have moved a little bit more out. That one note determines the whole thing. It would be if I just move to here, I feel I'm stuck in the black keys. Doesn't feel right. That one note determines how much I'm moving. Okay, so that's, you have to look at music now a little bit beyond, ahead, you know, past just that particular item. Because the answer very often is in what's coming next. So this is one thing, and it's really worth learning, you know, when we do 1 to 2 white keys, to learn how to move out and in without twisting, without curling. That's something that doesn't come very intuitively. You know how to move and not do this, or that. So how to go with a short finger from a black key and learn really together with the rotation, and then coming out with the second part of the rotation to the right place. And then, to complete it, you have a shape that goes with it. But the shape doesn't determine the amount of in and out. The in and out determines the in and out. And then, it's an undershape going to an overshape. And again, follow with this again. People never know they're here, you know. Again, because I'm going back to that E flat, I'm with a short finger, a little bit longer, puts me right there. And that's the end of the story. And if I had, I would have been more out. And there's a place that feels exactly right. Someone used to call it grooves. It's going just into the, it feels like you're falling, really like there's a hole right there, a little groove, and it feels that you're exactly there. In measure 4, same. The whole thing is that E flat. How much we move out. If we're 2 here, we have a huge distance. It's not going to feel right, it's not going to sound right. See, and I move a little bit out, coming from here. Shape also positions the arm in such a good place, so it's the in and out plus. Now, I'm here. If I'm here, I don't want even to do it. You know, the third finger will feel curled. It's like a short finger, like a second finger in front of the third. It's a very bad feeling. And also tightens. And another thing that is very important when we go from 3 to 2 is that it's true of all situations, that the fingers don't just release sideways, but they release back to the natural shape of the hand, of the fingers. You know, that they're like this. No finger is curling or no finger is straightening. So, see that? Coming a little bit out, but I'm right here. This is what I have people do. They're not used to being here. Even people with experience, where the third finger is a little bit in, we don't have an overhead camera. Like we do at Princeton, so come to Princeton. Because you'll have an it's an expensive deal, you know, to see an overhead camera, but it changes lives. So this is what we have here. And then there are always issues with doing the B-flat scale. You know something, when you learn, you have their prototypes. So it's not like every situation is so different. You'll find yourself in a lot of situations in the B-flat major sonata or other sonatas where you have mixtures of white and black keys. So I just move a little bit out and play a little bit forward because I'm going here. I'm not going here. So this is much less in than if I go again to the E-flat. The E-flat is running the show. And a little bit out here. In order to be close, the whole idea is to have you always close to where you're going next. Not further away, and here it's in a smaller way because all those ins and outs, you know, are very very small. So you have to do at the beginning, just listen to the, you know, to the information and listen to what you're being told. And then you have to work it, and then you have to see how it feels, and you bring it back to the teacher and say, okay, you know, this feels okay, this one, I'm still questioning. In measure 6, you start here, little out and forward. But here, I have out, forward. Like this, and then the 3 is released a little bit closer to bring me here. It's a longer finger to a shorter key. If it didn't have the E-flat, would have had the same shape but more out. You see that? Is that something that you're aware of in a very particular way? Am I just repeating? Because if I'm repeating something that you know, I'm going to quit and move on.
I think I'm aware of it in my own playing, but this is helpful because I'll look for it more in students playing.
Do you feel that way also? I find across the board people don't do that, like that. It's not precise. So it's like going, you get to a point where you have to go into the precision element. You know, what you need becomes smaller and smaller and smaller, but just as important, because at that point, that's the life changer. Before it was, where is your wrist? Are you connected? How are you sitting? Getting the arm free, which is an always, you know, so you have all of that. And then it becomes, the things become smaller. And when I will work with the 2 students after, you will see how much of the elements still keep someone in pain we absolutely don't see. We have corrected all the things that we can see that are obvious, and something is still going on beyond it. Are there any questions so far?
I have a question.
Yes.
There is these single rotations, si, la, sol, fa, mi, sol. So I have problems there because there are a lot of single rotations. Like I cannot be like this all the time. So I try to make a big shape from that.
You mean this one?
Well, it is
12.
This one.
Yeah.
Okay, we're getting there.
Okay.
And single rotations also need a shape, because otherwise we feel the single rotation. And we have to feel them first. It's number 1, you know, how hard we slave with single and double rotation, just that. But if they're not combined with the in and out in the right way and the shaping, it feels very, very like that. And we want the smoothness. So everything that I'm saying, even at the first measure, when you have this, well, it has a double, but then it's a single. But they're all part of an undershape. So you don't feel all that going back and forth. Okay, let's go to that measure that Hector is suggesting. But one thing before it, which is always a problem. When you go to the upbeat to measure 12, it's still the end of measure 11. big problem. In the same way of going from a black key, short finger to a long finger to out. That people, you have to slave to really do it until you got it, because it comes up again and again in playing. And if you don't have it, it will always be a problem.
How do you prevent students from like sliding when you're going from the
Like this. Yeah, so that's why I have a list of what it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be a sliding. It shouldn't be a falling out. It shouldn't be a curling. It shouldn't be a twisting, to come out. People do everything but. Not because they're stupid or they don't try hard enough, because those things, are a little bit challenging. It's exactly, people pull out and do that. Well, I sit like this. First of all, I know it's a single rotation, but I would just sit with a person like that. Now, no pushing, no letting go. If you have a better way, I'm interested. But I find that even doing that takes people time to really feel it. And one of the reasons for that, it's again, not that we don't try hard enough, because what happens between the movements is so quick. And even when it's legato, feeling legato, we have to know that we have to have a movement, but we cannot control the movement as it's happening. It has to be very free. We try to do, and to pull out a little bit. So this is what happens. It's here. This is the preparatory motion, and that happens where you are. It's not pulling you out. That always true of the preparatory motion to the next finger. This is where it is. And you have to learn that movement, this is going to take you out. And the moment that you're out, and you cannot stop, you cannot do something else, it really has to be this. And you have to trust it. You have to trust it, you just have to do it. And you're told also, it's a little bit higher, which makes it also a little bit easier. And the moment you're out, that fifth finger has to be right next to you. If it's there a split second longer, it will hold you from the whole thing to come out. So we have to think what's at the beginning, and we have to know what's at the end, which is you landing, and the fifth finger is there. And you just have to let it happen. That's what happens. And the wording, we come out and we have to play it down. So it's not this kind of a thing. And we have the tendency to come out and to be lower. This happens to be coming out. It's the same shape as this. So that's why I said this has to be worked on. And that's why we train the teachers and train. Because those kinds of problems, you can go past them by. This is Passover, this is the Jewish holiday, but you cannot pass them by. Nobody can do that. You have to really do it. A lot of things you can't pass over. So this is the other thing that, has to be worked on exactly right. Yeah, no pushing. I'm like that. It's the jab of the arm. Turning back this way and coming out and landing. Have to have faith when you do that. That's the only way. And then you find out, gee, I'm there, and my third finger is still here. Okay, let's move out a little bit more. Let's move in. Let's move in. So those things, going from a short to a long finger to an out, short to long finger. Here, this type of a thing, same thing. Might as well put it into the technique. If the teacher finds that it's hard for them to do, come to one of us. This is what we do. We have a mentoring system for that reason. So if it's hard, you go to a mentoring teacher. So that thing really works into the hand, and you stay with it. I don't know if it answers it, but try. I'm sure that you know that, but work with it. Yes?
Regarding Hector's question, is it worth talking about the grouping of those single rotations?
What do you mean? You're talking
He's
about this?
You just do it like this.
I don't know what your group is. This is what I would talk about. Okay? I would talk about the fact, this is measure 12, that those first few notes, the single rotation and they're an overshape. And being all white keys, you you're coming a little bit out, just like it's scale, and going back. But then you have a B flat. So you're not moving out. That's what I'm talking from that point of view. Okay, because my grouping, I think, is just every 4 notes. So you don't just feel that. It's small. But what I'm concentrating on is really one point. How much do we move? If I'm here, I'm stuck in the black keys. I move to out, I'm falling out. Just enough. And here I'm staying where I am. And then, this is the one also. So it has a shape. But it has an out. It has to be logical. That if I'm coming out, I don't want to be so out that I have to go into the 5th. Because the 5th is still part, a little bit of the out, bringing me back to the thumb. So there's single rotations. The lateral is still number 1. That's the basis. The finger and the forearm moving across the distances, whether they're very small, whether they're larger, plus. And then I'm right there, moving a little bit out, and so on. I really wanted to show it from the point of view of where we move a little bit more out, and when we move less, based on having some black keys there. I mean, is that driving home, or is that, Pat, you look questioning?
I'm thinking.
You're thinking, okay. Maybe I'll show, does it raise any other questions? Except you really have to go and do it. You know, because that's a big issue of how much to move and how to move. But once I remember sitting and slaving over it, you know. I don't remember if it was a day or a week or 2 weeks, but it didn't feel exactly, you know, it didn't feel like exactly a natural thing to do. Really to allow the arm really to do it. I just really followed the wording. I was told, turn, you know, let the arm bring you out. And if I say, well, I feel I'm falling out, then the instruction was go out and play down. And that helped a lot. You know, I'm coming out and I'm playing down, getting higher, getting lower. I just followed the instruction. That's it. Sometimes it's hard to do better than that. You know, just to say that's what it is. And the person really, all our teachers, you know, we're all very devoted to you getting results. We work very hard for you to get the right results. And we teach all the other teachers to give you really the results that you need to get. And it's a group, you know, we have really a good group of people who are amazingly devoted and caring and all of that. Sometimes you just have to follow the words and do it. Because you're going to develop a feeling you didn't have before. You're not going to something familiar. This was not, whatever I was doing, I think for me it was maybe 2 to 3 the first time, I don't remember. Maybe 4 to 3, it was like from a short to a long finger coming out. What you end up with is something very unfamiliar. I've never experienced that feeling. I don't know what I did before, but probably curled out. I don't know what I don't think I knew what I was, you know, I was just playing. Adrian.
Hey, I wondered if you could speak for a moment generally about this problem. I have one particular student that has tremendous difficulty feeling when things are right. Mm-hmm. And she's always asking me, does it look right, does it look right, does it look right? And I'm, of course, trying to bring it back to this is what you need to be able to determine. And how do you teach effectively this difference between what feels new and what feels comfortable, even when it's new? Because sometimes what's comfortable is not initially, people don't recognize it because it's new and unfamiliar.
Well, first of all, I want to know if there's a symptom of any kind. I want to know if the symptom is gone. That gives you immediately, if something is uncomfortable, does it feel more comfortable? I've never found anyone, sometimes they're not sure, you know, if it feels still uncomfortable, they'll say it's uncomfortable. And if it feels more comfortable, maybe it's not the end of what comfort is, they'll say, you know, it feels, I said, does it feel more comfortable? If there's a symptom, did the symptom go away? The symptom can be pain, it can be fatigue, it can be just discomfort, it can be insecurity, but I will always get, and I have a sense also, usually, of what's right. Now, if something student says, does it look right? I will say, if it's right, I will say, it looks right, but does it feel right?
And she always says, I don't know.
I don't know what
Does it feel different? I don't know.
Then I don't know. I usually go to where they know. Maybe not right away, but they will know that it feels better. So I'll say, if I see that there is no more to do, I'll say practice for a week and let me know next week how it feels. But I will be sure that definitely looks right and that the person doesn't have any symptom. I don't know what to say. Usually when people begin to feel a little bit more of a sense of comfort, they can compare it to. So I would say, can you compare it to another place that feels good? If she doesn't feel good at all, I would go to a mentoring teacher. That it may look good, you know, but not feel good. Let me see. Did I get the point across? I have more examples, but I know it's a lot of itsy-bitsy kind of work. If you find that it's tiring, I will stop here and we'll take a little break and then work. It's completely up to you. I'm up to doing, you know, to doing whatever.
Edna,
Yes.
would you mind talking about, it would be this measure here, about measuring the in and out in this measure itself,
Sure.
and as compared to this measure?
Okay. So, you know, measure 18. We come in, starting here. I'm moving here. Okay, what am I doing next? It's all white keys. All white keys will always mean more in and out. Now, it doesn't mean any amount of in and out. It just means that I'm not going to curl, that I don't want to play here. That doesn't feel good to play here. So just take my word for some things, because otherwise we'll be here all night. So I'm starting here, and it's also there's another shape. I'm actually moving enough. There's only one note that moves out, and this is the second note, this one. How do I know? Why don't I move like that? It doesn't feel right. Some of the things I'll tell you just doesn't feel right. So I'm moving enough to the 3 to have room to come back to these fingers and still not hit into the black keys. I'm not going here. And you see it's very lateral also, and it keeps being lateral. So when one of the big issues is when we do that we don't forget the rotation. Because otherwise it's going to be like that. So here it is. Now if you go to here, you've got to get a little bit in to the 3-4. And the shaping is about here. You see how it looks? That's, by the way, the look of under and over with that distance. And sometimes I suggest to people, if you want to go in and actually to do 4-5. Does that answer it? Here, then I'll go to the next one. Okay, the next one comes from the thumb. So it's almost the same as, but with greater distance, like the one going to here, except that it happens sooner and larger distances. So this goes a little bit in and down in the shape. A little bit out, turning forward, and you see where it puts me right here. This is very lateral. Gets a little bit higher to the 2. So I'm moving a little bit out this way, but I'm not moving to here. And I'm not here, because it will put me to inside. Look at it a little, broaden maybe a little bit the window of how you look. I know I have to have in and out and all that. Okay, look at the picture. I still want to be in the white key area. And I still have to see when I do this. The lateral is still there. You don't see, hardly see anything, but underneath, you see that movement is worked in to such a degree, the hand will never want to twist or to curl. So I can really concentrate, and my second finger is still here. It's not in the black key area. It's very much this way, very lateral with a little bit of an under and an over. I don't know, does that answer it, Bob? Any other wish here? I mean, I have other places, but I think that I will give you a rest. One last thing, again, to show a mix of something that looks the same, but the in and out amount is different. If you look at 60, measure 60, leading to it. By the way, I don't know, those of you who work with me will notice I'm more, when someone asks me what is the shaping, I always look, I go further before and I go further after, because the shaping doesn't always start when you're looking at it. So in page, it's not something new, but it's, since we've been the last few good years, we've been analyzing shaping on a much deeper level. And the in and out on a much deeper level. When does it start? You know, how much to do. Shaping doesn't start at the moment that you're asking. So for example, 59, the shape starts here. I just wanted you to know that you can't determine it from the B flat. You could say it's an undershape probably. But it really helps. Shaping doesn't start necessarily, not where the beat is, not at the beginning of a phrase. Shaping is ongoing, it's got its own logic. So it could be like on the third note of the 16th note, or fourth note, or second note, or the first note. So this one starts here. Now, because I have those flats, I don't have to think about the in and out. I'm in the right place in this situation to be close to the edge of the black keys. But here, it's like having two keyboards. Like that. One is here, and one is here. So, here, but here, big time. But this one has to go to here. You have to really use logic. There's logic and a kind of magic that goes with the logic. Because you go with the logic and then you do the movements and suddenly it's so magical because it's so much easier. And I'm right there. And everything feels like it's right there. But we have to work very hard to get to feel right there because there's so much of what's going on a very, very fine level.